Hi, this is Tom from Nightingale Games, talking about War Room, a game designed by Larry Harris on Kickstarter until December 8th, 2017. And I'm going to be talking about turn order and showing off the jumbo size map, which is made of a mousepad-like material and is 47 inches in diameter. This is the add-on upgrade that you can purchase separately. And the standard map is 42 inches in diameter, and this one's 47. I put down a game you might recognize, that's Mars. And here I'll pick up the edge so you can see the back is just a rubber material. And we found that it retains color fairly well and folds up nicely. Alright, so now on to turn order. So, in the first phase, each nation will be tallying up its resources per territory, as shown here and here. They're also on the territory cards, which is how you'll tally them. And then during the next phase, all nations will be secretly writing movement orders, conferring with their teammates and discussing plans of where to go, where to attack. And they'll also be bidding for turn order, with oil, the most precious resource. And while some of the most important things are done simultaneously, turn order is a factor in a lot of these actions. So let's say, for example, that after movement orders are revealed and turn order is to be established. So let's say that Japan bid for oil, so they get to choose first. And it's not just going first, they could choose to go last if they so wanted, or any slot in between. But because Japan has plans that they don't want to get interrupted, they'll go first. And then let's say Italy and the Soviets both bid 2. They would randomly break that tie. They also want to go early. Then British was at 1. They want to wait and see what happens, so they'll go last. And then everyone else is randomized. China has no oil, so they can never bid for oil. So they're always in the last batch. So now that turn order is established, the movement will begin. And each nation will move and carry out all of their orders as written, or unless they're canceled. So I already pointed out Japan's reason for wanting to go first is that perhaps they had some diabolical plans to invade Alaska, and so they didn't want the enemy to interrupt them. They didn't want to get pinned, basically. And so they were wanted to be sure to carry out those orders, whereas the British wanted to wait and see what happened. And so during movement, hotspots will be placed on the map at any point where there's a conflict. And after all movement, carrier fighters launch in a separate step. And this will be done in turn order as well. And a carrier fighter might launch, say there's a carrier here, it might launch here, here, here. So there might be a very minor reason to want to go first to launch your carrier fighters ahead of somebody else's or after somebody else's. It might be an advantage to know where they'll be launching. And then after that, during the combat phase, each nation in turn will choose a hotspot to resolve, so in which they're involved. So Japan will choose a hotspot in which they're involved, and then Italy, and so on until they pass through, and then it'll begin again until all hotspots are resolved. If a nation isn't involved in hotspots, then it will just simply be skipped at that time. So as you are deciding which hotspot to resolve, there are some subtle reasons to choose one over another, and I'm going to give 4 examples of that. One might be that you want to resolve the hotspot in France. Let's look at France here. You want to resolve the hotspot in France because you want to retain control of the port, because you have another battle out here in the sea region adjacent, and you want to be able to continue to use your port advantage, which gives free repair to naval ships. So you want to, or it might be the other way around. You think you might be losing France and your port, therefore you want to have this sea battle happen first, so you get a chance to repair. Another reason is that the port affects the convoys linked to it, so that whoever controls the territory at the time of the convoy raid, that's the nation that will be affected. So if the British are invading France and are sure to win, they are also raiding these convoys, they might want to choose to raid the convoys first, otherwise they'd be raiding their own convoys, because the control of them changes immediately after control of the territory changes hands. Another reason might be that you are low on resources, and let's say in Leningrad here, there's a hotspot, and you might be extremely low on resources and want to resolve a battle in which you'll be sure to be able to afford repair for your important armor, as opposed to if you had another conflict in Algeria that wasn't as critical to your strategy. So you might, there might also be other reasons. The 4th reason would be that you might want to resolve a critical battle that's important to you, say in the capital, before resolving the less important battles, because it might affect how much risk you take in the subsequent battles based on your stances. Now, another factor in turn order, which is also fairly subtle, is that during battle, your stances have to be finalized, and whoever's first in turn order must finalize their stances first. So usually, in that case, it would be a disadvantage, because you don't get to see what the other player has done. But this is an extremely subtle point. It's also who rolls the dice first. So if you're first in turn order, you will be rolling the dice first. It's also, during battle, if teammates can't come to a decision, or at any point during the game, turn order is typically the ultimate decider in who goes first or who gets the call, as far as who gets to be commander or anything else resolving disputes between teammates. Now, after all battles are resolved, there is a landing plane step, and this is during refit and organize in the following phase. And planes will be landing, and these must be done in turn order again. And because you might be able to land in various locations, the person first in turn order has a slight disadvantage in that they don't know where the enemy is going to be landing their planes. Then turn order also affects the morale phase, and each nation in turn order will decide whether they want to use their metals and civilian goods to cancel stress, and that's done in turn order, and also possibly paid to move back on the stress wheel here. Then finally, during the production phase, the choices as to which resources you spend and what units you buy is all done simultaneously and secretly. But after that is revealed and you're deciding where to put out your new units at the various industry sites, you will have a choice. So if I was, say, building 3 tanks, I might want to put 1 here and 2 here, or 2 here and 1 here. And obviously, whoever goes last will have a slight advantage there in knowing what the enemy has put out for deployment in the following round. So that's just a quick overview of why turn order is important and why you might want to bid oil to secure your first or last or somewhere in the middle spot. Thanks for listening, and we're going to be providing more videos in the coming weeks. Thanks. Bye.